Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another barrage of Hedgehog book recommendations. These are named after Christopher Russell, our little corner of BookTube's resident cartoon hedgehog, and they are videos in which I just talk about books with you. There's a bunch of books that I talk about with you, new books, old books. I recommend them, certainly, to one degree or another. Some of them are glowing recommendations, and again, I've had quite a few I've had quite a few emails lately about people wanting the return of these Hedgehog book recommendation videos, but I've also had quite a few emails from people wanting maybe a couple of Hedgehog book recommendation videos in which all the recommendations are my equivalent of 5 stars, where they're all things I cannot recommend strongly enough. I don't know that we're going to continue these videos at all, much less that I'm going to start taking thematic requests. But nevertheless, quite a few winners on this list, some of which you may end up liking more than I do. We'll start with a book that is old. I believe that in 2025 it came into the common domain, so you could print a copy of your own. This is William Bolitho, and this is his book 12 Against the Gods, a collection of short biographies of a random handful of people, most of whose names you will know, some of whom were more popular 80 years ago than they are now, so you might have to Google them. But boy, oh boy, you don't go to this for the facts of biography. You go to this for Bolitho's writing, which is amazingly spirited, just amazingly so. This is just a spellbinding book to read, whether you think you like biographies or not. Bolitho wrote, of course, 1,000,000 novels, so he has those skills in play in this book. I feel certain that even if you don't think you like biography, you will love this. Then we have a novel by Hamilton Hamilton Basso. This is out of print. I don't believe that Penguin has ever picked this up. I don't think anybody else has either. Once upon a time, it had a heyday. It was, for a little while there, the most popular novel in the country, a long time ago. It's The View from Pompys Head. And it's a novel about a man who comes back to his hometown of Pompys Head to fulfill a mission, what seems to him to be a legal mission, but it ends up flushing out of cover a whole bunch of other mysteries, a whole bunch of other tangled complications that they end up combining into a very touching, basically you can't go home again theme. I don't know why this novel has not continued to catch on. There are some novels like this that I just don't. They're not doing anything wrong, and I don't understand when I come to these novels what the factors are that allow a book to stay present in the reading eye, and what factors stop it from doing that. Another example that I've come up with that I've mentioned over and over again on this channel is a novel called Parish by Mildred Savage. Norwich, Connecticut's own Mildred Savage. It is a fantastic novel. It is every bit as good as The Grapes of Wrath, and yet it's forgotten, completely forgotten. I've mentioned the same thing about Lillian Hellman. And I mentioned it here too. The View from Pompys Head is a terrific slice of American life novel with the author remembering that his duty is to do more than that. He also has a plot that is intriguing. So if you find it at a yard sale or whatever, give it a try. It might in a yard sale or on a table, it might look like dusty old fiction, but it's not. I think you'll be taken in by it. Then we have Miranda Neville. This is a romance novel. I think this is the second book in a series. This is The Ruin of a Rogue. I don't know what's going on that cover there, but this is a modern Regency romance. You can tell because her dress is 50,000 yards of cloth, and also because they seem to be doing something other than just holding each other on the cover. This is the story of the main character here. The male main character is a scoundrel, a gambler. He's not a member of the landed gentry, which is a little bit odd. She is. The female main character is, and she's tired of it. She's tired of the nice manners of her well-mannered world. So they meet each other in a perfectly even playing ground. He views her as a mark. She views him as a way to thumb the eye of all of her prim and proper relatives, and also maybe to live a little bit on the dark side. And since it's a romance novel, you know that level playing field is going to become love. But Miranda Neville does not insult your intelligence. She does a wonderful job with the book. Her dialogue is fantastic. So I'm a big fan of hers anyway. I think this might be my favorite book of hers. Okay. Let's do a couple of huge works of history, shall we? This first one is by Kevin Sharp. He wrote a trilogy of books on the early Stuarts, on the late Tudors, on a tumultuous, what he views, and he makes an irrefutable case, was an absolutely crucial period in the English monarchy and in English society. And this is the third of those volumes. You don't need to read them as a trilogy. This is Rebranding Rule, where he is mainly concerned with imagery. In the late Tudor, the end of the Tudor era, when imagery was so important for a very old Queen Elizabeth I, and also then the Stuarts, Charles I and Charles II, and what they did with it, how you can figure that out, and what you can say about it. This is an author who writes very long books. This thing is like 1,000 pages long. All the books in this trilogy are 1,000 pages long. He writes very good, very thorough books, but he remembers to make them interesting. So there have been many books on the subject of the king and the image of the king, the body and the image of the king, but this is the most thorough fleshing out of what it actually meant, how it actually played out in Restoration politics. Just wonderful. It's wonderful to see history being written this intelligently. Same thing here with this next one. This is Peter Wilson. This is his big history of the 30 Years' War that starts with a defenestration, famously, and ends with a very angry Germany, a Germany that is going to stay angry for another century and a half. And the 30 Years' War is full of big personalities. It's full of, we have actually a fairly good amount of material that allows us to infer what the experience of the war was like for the ordinary person. It's full of dramatic events. It needed a new big one-volume history. This is also crowding on 1,000 pages, but it is readable. It is really, really, it is the book to get if you're reading in, history of even Cardinal Richelieu. No matter where you are, if you're reading history and you come across yet another mention of the 30 Years' War and you think, where do I start? Well, there's an answer to that question. You start with the Wikipedia entry. You start with the Wikipedia. If you're breaking pure ground, you don't know anything at all, start with the Wikipedia entry and read it through carefully, attentively, and then read this book. Unless you are some sort of freak, you are not going to want to devote reading to the 30 Years' War. You're not going to read more than one book, but this book will do just fine as that one book. Then we have a shorter book. This is a gut punch. It was 10 years ago. It's even more so now. This is by Craig Stanford, and it is called Planet Without Apes, in which he explores the current conservation state of all the non-human apes in the world. And it's dire. And it's only going to get worse, and it has gotten worse in the time since he wrote this book, if we're talking about populations that are not lab experiments or in zoos. It's important to understand the irony of this title. You, listening to me right now, are a great ape. You are a species of great ape. Same as the person on the cover. You're not special. You're not separate. You're not divinely created or divinely ordained. You share every characteristic in common with a great ape. You are a great ape. You are just the victorious one. And this author wants to understand what it would mean if we actually do commit cladicide. If we actually do, either through indifference or through poaching or through malice, given the fact that the whole world is Trump now, it could be malice. What will happen if we exterminate all of our closest cousins? We are extremely closely related to chimpanzees. Extremely closely. Obviously, gorillas and orangutans are also related to us, although many evolutionary biologists have pointed this out. There is no denying it. There was denying it before we had genetic science, but now there is no denying it. We are closer relatives to chimpanzees than they are to gorillas, or than we are to gorillas. There's an enormous amount of consanguinity there. And what does it mean that we are steadily, year by year, destroying the natural habitat of chimpanzees and bonobos and gorillas, especially orangutans? They can't live without a habitat. What will it mean when they're all gone? It's a combination, a very successful combination of science and a few personality profiles of the scientists doing the work in the field and in the lab, and also natural history. But always with this very sad undertone of what is staring us in the face. Unless things drastically change, what is staring us in the face? What is staring us in the face is a world in which we are the only ape left. It's fascinating, saddening, but fascinating. Then we had Ed Mitchell. This is an older book. This is his book, Memoirs of an Editor. He was a long-time editor-in-chief of a grand old newspaper. That is where it was made, that building right there. I don't know if you can actually make it out. No. Well, it doesn't matter. He was a grand old editor of The Sun forever and ever and ever. And it's so many stories to tell about the famous people that he knew, about the problems that he had getting a paper out through thick and thin, through snow and civil war and whatnot. I love this sort of thing. I love this sort of book. I have a whole shelf of them. I've never actually found a copy of this in the wild in 50 years, and I got rid of the copy that I had. I gave it to a bookish friend of mine. I told him at the time, this was a long time ago, I said, I don't lend books, and you know that. We agree on that subject. But I would really like this back when you drop off the twig. And he said, well, I'm not quite sure how that could be ordained, but I shall endeavor to do my best. But no, it went to the Strand or Housing Works with all the rest of his books, so I never got it back. And I've never seen it since. I will. The Brattle will provide. But the reason that I have a whole shelf of these books, and the reason why I love them is because I am also an editor and have been an editor for hire, the kind of thing that Mitchell would have looked down on. I have not maintained a berth ever anywhere. I've always been an editor for hire, where if you need an editor, well, I can do it. And I can make you a good section that will not need any supervision by you. It will run of its own. It will get mail, and the mail will all be positive. And I charge you for it. But so there's a bit of connection here with the subject. Then we have a novel, a thin novel. I believe this author's debut novel, really accomplished. This is The Return of the Soldier by Rebecca West, who is now best known, certainly on this channel, best known for Black Lamb and Grey Falcon, her enormous travel log. But she was really good at fiction, too. And this is a story of a soldier back home from World War I who has an enormous chunk of his memories missing. He has a kind of selective amnesia. So he does not remember his adult life. And it's pretty obvious early on in Rebecca West's occasionally florid descriptions of that affliction that he is eliminating his mind has eliminated all of his contemporary life so that it can eliminate the war. And this novel is on one level a little bit sleepy. It's just him living his life in a fake innocence, a mental innocence that isn't real, surrounded by the people in his life, especially the women in his life. But it is wise. It's wise and very wonderful. If debut novels, if this is her debut novel, well, the more of them need to be written like this. I loved it. I am a big fan of this author's work, but I don't neglect her fiction. Then this next one is a work of history. We'll go back to history. This is much shorter than the other two. Don't be traumatized. This is J.R. Hale, a great historian of the Italian Renaissance. This is a book of his called Florence and the Medici, which is mainly about just that one family. This doubles as both a history of the Medici in very brief. Of course, they've had longer histories and better written histories than this. Hale, I'm sure, would agree that some of his great predecessors were more eloquent writers. He's a good writer. But the Medici have commanded some of the most eloquent writers of history and biography that have ever put pen to paper. So you won't be getting that here, but you are getting a lot more in the way of what those older, century-old books will leave out, in the way of analyzing records, in the way of analyzing coins or inscriptions or whatnot. It's a very good overview of Florence and the Medici. And then we can finish up this latest round of Hedgehog recommendations. I know you're all going to say you want more than just this number of books. You want twice as many books, maybe next time. This is what we'll do here next time is Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brien. This covers from a relatively new, like 6 years ago, the publishers brought out a new set of paperbacks of all of Patrick O'Brien. And the publicist wrote to me ahead of time and said, we're doing this whole set. Can I put you down for the whole set? It'd be really wonderful. And I said, absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you can. I would love that. And they said, great. And I never heard from them again. And then months later, when the set was ready to come to press and go out into bookstores, a different publicist emailed me and said, can I put you down for the whole set? I don't see that we've sent you these, but I know you're a big fan. So can we send you the whole set? And I said, yes, indeed, you can send me the whole set. I would love that. And that publisher never heard from them again, never sent it. So I never actually have held these books in my hand. But I know the series quite well. And Patrick O'Brien's Aubrey and Maturin novels, that's what it's called up top there, is the story of a Napoleonic-era British seafaring captain named Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin, a thin, querulous Irish spy and doctor, and how the two of them become friends. They become such close friends that Aubrey asks Maturin to ship out with him as a ship's doctor. And they have a whole lot of adventures together. And we follow Jack Aubrey through all the rungs of his career until, well, not quite to lordship, but we follow him all the way to being an admiral. And unlike a lot of other seafaring fiction series that fit that description, these are actually written in order. So if it were Horatio Hornblower, I would say, well, pick up Flying Colors or Beat to Quarters. So you don't have to start with Midshipman Hornblower. You don't have to do that. Forster didn't start that way, so you don't have to worry about it. But with Patrick O'Brian, it's different. In Master and Commander, Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin meet for the first time. And it's a wonderful scene, and you get to know them. They get to know each other. Better to read these books in order. So better to start with Master and Commander. And it's a wonderful, wonderful book. The only thing that will be a problem is that Patrick O'Brian does not explain the terminology of seafaring or of Napoleonic-era naval warfare, or even the lingo of the time, the slang of the time. He doesn't explain any of it. He just dunks you down in it. So you're going to be floundering for a bit. He does his best. He gives you a little bit of a lifeline because Stephen Maturin doesn't know a lot of the naval jargon either. He has to have a lot of it explained to him. And when it's being explained to him, it's being explained to you. So that will, I think, be enough. It was certainly enough for me. It's been enough for everyone I know who's tried this book. So give it a try. And there you go. Some Hedgehog book recommendations for you to wrap up this video. And then I guess I'll do another one. Well, I can't imagine what kind of an event would bring Hedgehog book recommendations to an end. Probably wouldn't be a very enjoyable event, no matter what it was. Anyway, I'll wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.